Hi everyone, my name's Dan Shetty. I'm a product manager at Spotify, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys today about Lineage. Yeah, I'm a product manager at Spotify. We do data management, and so I'm going to talk about what we're building internally. So, firstly, I want to walk through why we spent a lot of time investing in Lineage, what the need is, and then I'm going to talk about our internal framework of like how we think through Lineage and just share best practices on what we found to be really useful around Lineage. So data silos, as we all know, are more real today than they've ever been. Sekoda says that 40% of teams, sorry, there's 40% more data today than there's ever been in each company 3 years ago. So there's a huge, huge explosion of data in each company, and the amount of data a team has to manage has really gone up a lot. And then data teams, BI teams spend a lot of time having to do root cause analysis, impact analysis. Monte Carlo found that 68% of data teams spend about 30% of their time tracing data flows manually. So what this really means is that there's a lot of data and it's really hard to navigate. And so companies need some sort of map here, and that's where Lineage comes in. And Lineage has some really hard, real levers that are being pulled. For example, governance and compliance. There's a lot of evolving governance and compliance that requires all of the upstream data to be tracked or the downstream data to be tracked. And so one example of this is the EU AI Act, which requires all of the upstreams for a specific data set or a model. And so there are like real fines that come with this as well. And so there is like a governance and compliance level. The Digital Services Act is another law that requires some sort of data tracking here. Especially in an AI world, this becomes more relevant and important. And from a data governance perspective, there's a lot of value in tracking how your data is flowing through systems. For example, how PII or personal data is flowing through systems. There's a lot of value in tracking this, and Lineage really, really helps move the needle with that. The second aspect is cost and storage control. So Lineage helps reduce data duplication. It helps you track costs to features. For example, if we launch a new feature, you could see all of the pipelines that map to that specific feature, and you could map all of the data costs that map to a specific feature. And so Lineage really, really helps with managing your costs and giving you better cost insights. And at the end of the day, it helps you understand how data powers the business. It helps you increase data reliability. When incidents occur, that's when Lineage really shines. It shows you all of the upstreams, all of the downstreams, and you can really see what is the root cause of an incident. Say it's 3 steps down the line and like one of your downstreams is impacted, you can really see this with Lineage. And so this does help reduce incident downtime, and it helps you resolve incidents faster. And it also helps you identify critical data sets. For example, if you're doing a quarterly earnings report, you can see the hundreds of upstreams to that specific data set. So like Lineage has a lot of levers. In short, it's governance, compliance, cost and storage control, as well as better data reliability. Now I want to talk about like how we think about Lineage, our framework for what we call as awesome Lineage. So Lineage, as I've been saying, is like a data graph, and there are few aspects to this. Firstly, you want to look at logs. So you want to log all of the data movement, and then you want to capture transformations, be it SQL queries, code snippets, and then obviously the fun part, which is the visual. You'll see there are like a lot of tools that do this data lineage for you today and map it for you really well. I saw a lot of good demos of this today as well. And so these are like the key simple aspects of building a data lineage graph. But at Spotify, we always want to take things one step further. And so we identified these 4 key entities to capture in an awesome lineage graph. Obviously, it really depends on what type of company you're in and what's really important to your company. In this framework, we go broad and we go deep. What I mean by that is with data sets, data lineage has really grown and seen a lot of adoption in these past few years. And we take that one step further with field level lineage or column level lineage, which shows you more fine-grained lineage information on what column is being used for a specific workflow or in a specific query. And you're able to really map this on a fine-grained level. And there's even like fine-grained access control that can be enabled on a column level on top of this. And that's really going deep on lineage. And we also think about going broad with lineage of meeting our users in the systems where they produce their data, be it metrics, be it models, be it events. I'm going to go through each one of these, but what we found is that people are using our data lineage tool to map to their own data producing system. For example, a data scientist looks at how data is being mapped to their model. Someone in personalization is looking at how it maps to their events. Someone in, say, a dashboard owner is looking at how lineage maps to their metrics. And so one of the key aspects here is AI model lineage. And just to clarify, this isn't mapping different models to each other. It's mapping how different data sets flow into a model and the data that's created by a model. Again, there are like a few levers for why we want to do this. The EU AI Act, for example, requires that really critical models have end-to-end tracking of all the data sets that go into a specific model training, and it helps us enable better data management on a model level, and it also gives us insight into what personal data is being flown into a model. Are we anonymizing all the personal data that goes into a model? We also get to see what synthetic data is being created from a model and better track all the AI-generated content and the AI-generated data that's coming from a model. So this is one aspect of it. And so we've seen that data scientists, what they really like about this is that they're able to identify the key quality issues. So say there's a upstream that is like 3 steps down the line and it has a lot of quality issues. You can easily look at a lineage graph and say, if we increase the quality here, if we work on improving the quality of this data set, it has like a downstream impact on 3 to 5 models, even 50 models. And so there's a huge case for tracking how data flows into models as well as how models create data. Another aspect is the metrics lineage. This is my favorite part because this is the real value lever here, because business people can see how data impacts their insights and dashboards. Let me give you a real life example here. A dashboard owner says, oh no, my dashboard just broke, what's going on? And then they can look at Lineage and see one of their upstream data sets was late in delivering some data, and that caused their dashboard to change. Another example here is, say, a metric drastically changes. You can see if the freshness of one of the data sets impacted that metric. And so the real value here is that non-data people, the people who aren't here at this conference, can see how like data sets are impacting dashboards and metrics, and yeah, they can really like think about, okay, how to improve like freshness. Yeah, and so that's another aspect here. The final aspect is event lineage. I personally think Netflix does a great job at tracking event lineage. And so the real value here is faster insights by tracking all of the events, and you can do more real-time event tracking. And like, I don't know at other companies, but at Spotify, we have like a lot of events, and tracking all of this is a real challenge. And what we saw is like different teams are building their own lineage graph, and we said, let's track all of this together and let's get it in one place. And the real power here is that you can connect user actions to data impact way faster if you structure your data in a real-time graph. Yeah, and so it optimizes performance, improves issue resolution with your events, and it just gives you that insight that you might be missing. One example from event lineage is that we had a team that wasn't really familiar with the events that they owned, and getting event lineage helped even the newest person on the team understand how the events that they're using informs the data and the decisions that they make. Yeah, and so those were the 4 aspects. I want to talk more like, okay, how do you actually go about building this? And like some tips from the field. There are like a lot of different sources that you can collect lineage information from. There's code analysis, where you can look at the code and see what transformations are happening and extract the information that way. You can even throw an LLM on top of it to do that sort of analytics there. There's also input and output data matching. There are like a lot of open source models that show you how certain SQL queries are creating data and outputting data. There's runtime instrumentation, which is my personal favorite, where you collect live data when a job runs. So you're basing all of your lineage data based on the workflow and the orchestration layer. And so any sort of official production pipeline that's made has to go through this process and has to show the lineage that comes out of it. And you can also look at config file parsing. At the end of the day, what really matters is what type of lineage information really your team values and your company values. And so that helps you guide the decision of what approach to take. Some companies solely go on code analysis. Some people solely go on runtime instrumentation. At Spotify, we're looking at like a model that uses all of these different aspects and combines all of this data in one place. Another interesting trend is moving from proprietary systems to open systems. So we use an open system here, like Open Lineage, to have all of this data in one place. And so we're seeing this like industry-wide trend where people are moving for the more flexible option, the more cost-efficient option, and the more like vendor-neutral option, which is an open source version of Lineage. Yeah, and so my final slide here is where to start building. I'd say there are like a lot of open source tools that you can easily start with. My one tip is to start with an incremental rollout. There's a lot of data that comes from a big company, and you want to know where to start. You can start with the most critical data sets and map all of the lineage for the most critical data sets to start. And a key call out here is you have to take an automated approach. A manual approach just doesn't work today in like a large scale system which has so much data. You need to take an automated approach here. And you have to be thinking about governance, because there's a real value here to capturing how personal data is flowing through your system, sensitive data is flowing through your systems, and thinking about all of these different governance compliance regulations that are coming out that require some level of lineage. And obviously, my favorite thing to think about as a product manager is the visual of how you exactly show this to people. So you really want to make sure that you're visualizing it in a way where users can navigate through this. A lot of companies spend a lot of time even doing field level lineage here. And yeah, at Spotify, we even have our own internal backstage experience, which is our data platform. And we have like an open source version. And I want to shout this out because if you think all of the data stuff we do at Spotify is cool, we do have a version you can use called Spotify Portal. And yeah, thank you.